In other news, the Durban Chamber of Commerce says medium-sized businesses are moving out of the city in droves. According to data from the South African Revenue Service, some entities with 5 to 10 employees are closing down. In fact, the figure that I have here is that hundreds of these businesses are either closing down or moving away from the city. Let's bring in Ajiv Maharaj. He's with the Durban Chamber of Commerce. He's the spokesperson there. Ajiv, thanks very much for joining us. What's driving these small businesses away from the city?
Good afternoon, Michelle, and thanks for having me firstly. I think so. The the concern was around small businesses in particular, between 5 and 10 employees, and then slightly bigger businesses between 20 and 60 employees. So it's in that category of small and medium-sized businesses. Now, the tax data seems to indicate that in 2024, we had a drop in the number of businesses in that category. We're still conducting research to be able to understand that better. Now, you know that often with small businesses, there's a high failure rate. So small businesses employing about 5 people, it's generally a trend in the country where you have a number of those small businesses failing. Other reasons for the drop could also be as a result of fewer companies submitting their tax returns. So it's not a foregone conclusion that this number of businesses have moved out of the city or closed. It's certainly a possibility, but there could be other dynamics at play, and we are looking closer into this matter. We're doing research with the Human Sciences Research Council to be able to understand better what's happening with regard to small and medium-sized businesses in the city.
So you don't know exactly what the impact has been on the Durban economy. For example, how many jobs have been lost to these businesses either closing or moving?
Yeah, interesting. What the data shows is that while there was a drop in the number of firms within the city, the number of people employed has greatly increased. So both the Stats SA quarterly labor force survey as well as the SARS data indicates that of all the municipalities in the country last year, eThekwini created the highest number of jobs. So it's rather contradictory information. On the one hand, we're seeing a huge number of jobs being created, unemployment falling, and youth unemployment also being impacted in that in 2024. It was a lot lower than in 2023. But at the same time, we're seeing a drop in the number of formal firms. So we're trying to understand that better. We think there might be other issues at play. Often businesses choose not to submit a tax return, or they move to the informal sector and are able to grow better in the informal sector. So those are some of the questions that we're trying to answer currently.
I mean, it's a difficult thing, right? Are we still in Durban in particular trying to recover from not only COVID-19? I mean, it certainly changed the face of work for many industries, the pandemic, not only in South Africa or in Durban, but around the world. But KZN is a particular issue just because of the level of natural disasters that have plagued the province over the past 5 years.
Absolutely. I think we've seen that natural disasters have become the new norm in KZN. There's a lot of work happening in that space, particularly in the climate space. The city has invested in an early warning system, which is currently operational. There's also a lot more coordination between the disaster response teams on the ground, but there's a lot more that needs to happen within the city before we can be disaster ready. And I think a lot of work is happening at the moment through the presidential working group that's currently working with the municipality, with the province, and with business to turn around the city.
And the issue with particularly something like the devastation caused by the weather is that it is, in many cases, incredibly difficult for these businesses to start over.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we've seen a huge impact, firstly from COVID, secondly, as a result of the unrest, and then thirdly, the devastating floods of 2022. But not only those floods, just this month, more than a week ago, we had floods in the city. So it's becoming a difficult business environment. The municipality and business are working quite closely to address some of those issues to mitigate the possibility of flooding, also to put in place incentives for businesses that are reinvesting. So in the form of rates rebates, in the form of support in rebuilding, support in future-proofing, or putting in place mitigation measures against flooding.
Yeah, and things like getting climate ready, climate change ready. These are all the kinds of things that ultimately support these small businesses and the economy as a whole.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, if anything, about 60% of the country's economy sits in about these 8 metro cities. So if we can get as a country, if we can get those cities functioning well, if we can get them climate ready, the bulk of the issues, the bulk of the challenges would have been solved. I think the challenge is around funding for some of the infrastructure improvements. The city has started a process of investing in infrastructure to ensure that we mitigate against flooding and the impact on business is minimized. But it requires all spheres of government to work together and to invest in infrastructure.
Certainly. Ajiv Maharaj, thanks very much for giving us your insights into this issue, particularly important for KwaZulu-Natal, but for the country as well. Ajiv is with the Durban Chamber of Commerce.